Hi there everyone, it's Arcus here on What Have I Been Watching, and today's topic is Stranger Things Season 1. So let's get started. And by the way, this video will contain spoilers, so if you haven't caught up the show yet, simply turn away now. You have been warned. Okay, so Stranger Things, if you haven't heard about it, which you probably should have by now, is a show set in the early 80s. Stranger Things it's a show about four teenagers, or I don't know if you call them teenagers, perhaps kids, and it's set in the 1980s. And the entire show, as you might have guessed from the name, it centers around a couple of strange occurrences that happen to these people. So the first episode, it starts off with the four kids and they're playing some sort of role-playing game, and they're referring to one of the characters as the Demogorgon. And this basically creates a plot that goes through the 10 episodes that is in the first season. And let me just tell you, this show is absolutely phenomenal. The brilliance behind the creators of this show to even capture something this obscured is really fascinating. And when you're watching this show, you're constantly at the edge of your seat, because you don't know what's gonna happen next. And that's sort of the real, it creates sort of a mystery vibe, and this is what I really liked about it, because you have these kids, and they sort of became the main characters, but they sort of became investigators, and almost like detectives, because, they want to figure out what happened. Because it all starts by one of the four friends, called Will, he goes missing. And so the other three, they try to figure out what the hell happened. And all the parents and so on, they keep telling them that he's disappeared and he doesn't come back. But they don't believe them. And this is also when they're introduced to Eleven. And this character, let me just tell you, it's really special. I haven't quite figured out yet what is it that makes her so special. But she has some sort of telekinesis abilities. And this creates really, she's a powerful character. And the show goes sort of towards a sci-fi vibe, but it sort of tries to keep everything as grounded as possible. So there's not a lot of magic or, the things that Eleven can do, they're out of the ordinary. It's not something that it's supposed to happen in a show like this. So anyway, the gang meets Eleven, and Eleven and Mike, they become really good friends. And so they set out to both try to figure out what happened to Eleven. Why doesn't she have any memories? Did she been raised at the laboratory? And it's all really fascinating how this chemistry between these two evolved throughout the first season. I must mention the fact that the character dynamics in this show are really good. The chemistry between them. You have the three kids in the first season and Eleven. They have really good chemistry with each other. But that's not the only focus you have. You also have focus on Hopper and Joyce, and they sort of become an investigating duo, and I've really liked this character chemistry between these two, and they make for really funny moments, and I really enjoy Hopper as a character, because he's not your average police chief. He's a bit on the... He sort of gets what they're going through, and he's trying to help. He's trying to be the good guy, so I really enjoy that. And as well, I have to say one of my favorite characters in Season 1, despite what everyone thought, was actually Steve. And I know he's kind of a douche in Season 1, but I really enjoyed this character, and the way he evolves in Season 2, he's really a good character. He's actually really caring, but it doesn't come off as that in the beginning. And I know I thought to myself, I really wanted Nancy and Jonathan, to start becoming more together, because they sort of knew each other before, and yes, Nancy's sort of the only one that's actually friendly towards Jonathan, because he's a bit of an oddball, I would say, but yeah, so I really liked that, and I actually thought that they should have become together and she should have broken up with Steve in the beginning, but now I actually really like Steve instead, so, but I still like Jonathan as well as a character, but they sort of evolved Steve in a way that I didn't quite expect, and I was really happy that they did it. Soundtrack in Season 1 as well, it's absolutely amazing. It totally gets the entire 80s vibe, and it fits really well with both the story and everything that happens. So the soundtrack to it is definitely one of the absolutely positive sides of season 1. And it just continues in season 2 as well. I mean, the few episodes that I watched, I mean, the soundtrack is really good in this show, and just the entire setting of it being set in the 80s. It's so fascinating to see, they have no cell phones, they have these really old computers, if even nothing at all. So therefore it creates even more towards the mystery, and it's so much fun to see all this kid having, they have old school walkie-talkies to keep contact with each other, and just this fact really elevates the show to another level. Because if it would have been said in the present day, I don't think it would have been quite as mysterious. I mean, sure, they could have done what they did with like Falling Skies, but I don't think it would have ended up in the same way as as it did now when they chose to set it in the 80s. So that was a really smart decision from them. Also, I must mention the visual effects on this is absolutely spectacular. When they're in the Upside Down and you have all of these visual effects constantly surrounding you, and you're also on the edge because you don't know what's in there. Anything could literally happen. And this is so much credit to both the production and the actors and everything for making it look so believable. And as I mentioned, the visual effects in this. I mean, if you didn't know it was made up, you could have almost believed that it was actually happening in real life. And I mean, who's to say it couldn't happen? That's one of the things with this show. As obscure as it may seem, it could actually happen in real life, which is something that keeps you very interested all the time, especially since all of this is happening during it's in the secret government and they're trying to keep everything under the down low as much as possible, but the people that lives in a town, they start to eventually become more and more, they start to get the picture of what is actually happening, but the government, they try to shut it down as fast as possible, and they try to make it as nothing has ever happened. So this is really interesting, and I mean, huge credit goes to the entire team behind Stranger Things. Also, the fact that the visual effects is really spot on, and it's not until almost the last episode of the first season yet that you really get to see what the Demogorgon looks like. I mean, it's hinted at some earlier episodes, but they always try to keep it very mysterious, so you sort of like see it perhaps in the background or in some sort of shadow, but the camera's never directed directly at it until like the very last episode. And at first the show's a bit slow, but after a few episodes the story gets really intense and it just keeps building and building, and even though the episodes are like 50 or 60 minutes long, time just flew by, and I mean, it felt like perhaps 10 minutes because already an episode is over and you're like, damn, I want to watch the next one as well. So I'm just gonna praise this show. It's really good and I definitely recommend it. And yeah, I've said some things and hopefully you watched it, otherwise sorry about spoilers, but sort of had that coming when you watched this episode, review. So Stranger Things, it's really good. There's 2 seasons right now on Netflix. A third is coming on April 4th, I think it was, or June 4th, something like that. So a season 3 is coming, and I'm just right now in the middle of season 2, and I'm really enjoying it so far. So it's really solid. I'm just gonna say that. So my rating for season 1, it's an 8 out of 10. I mean, it's sort of like, it's hard for me to put to words, but it's an interesting show, but they could have done some other things different that I would have liked. They could have changed up the way, perhaps a bit in the story, because yeah, I found it interesting, but at some points it didn't really make sense and you was sort of confused, but I suppose that's sort of their idea, that they want the viewer to be currently on edge and doesn't really know what happens, and I'm guessing they're gonna explain it later on in more seasons. So kudos to them for trying to keep the mystery alive as long as possible without, and even though we sort of get a sort of ending in season 1 about the first mystery, it's sort of only the beginning, and this is hinted at the last episode, and they just keep building on it in season 2, and I can't wait for what this show will be like in the future. So anyway guys, there you have it. That's my review on Stranger Things Season 1. That's all for this time. As always, if you have any thoughts or questions, simply comment down below, or if you have anything you want me to review next, just leave a comment down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And while you're at it, why not drop a like on this video, and make sure to stay subscribed in order to not miss out on any future content. Until next time, this is Arcus signing off.